A question about COVID, Congressman. We spent a lot of money on the COVID emergency over the past 2 or 3 years. And one of the positive signs in the budget that you pointed out is that the deficit is actually down this year. But the reason it's down is because of these, historically large emergency level deficits that we have. If you look out over the next decade or so, we actually return to emergency level deficits, but without the emergency. And so that concerned us, but it got me thinking too, not only do we have a fiscal problem, but are we in a worse position for the next COVID, whatever that might be? If God forbid, if we have another healthcare emergency, wouldn't we be better off to get our fiscal house in order to prepare for future emergencies?
Absolutely, and I'm glad you brought up the statistic that's always talked about, because I think it's deceptive, and I say this with respect to the president and the administration. That's my own party, and you've got to be honest with people about what's actually going on. So when I hear people trumpeting how we're making such a great progress on the fiscal deficit and the debt because it's far less than last year. As you pointed out, they don't add in the basic fact that last year was absolute record levels of annual deficit because we borrowed all of that COVID money. So it's kind of like saying, hey, we're doing so great against a benchmark that's a meaningless benchmark. The far better benchmark is where did we stand this year versus pre-COVID? And the fact is that we have deteriorated substantially. And so I think we do ourselves no service by putting the message in a context that's frankly deceptive, and it hurts the credibility of both the administration and Congress to put out messages that are so easily punctured and so easily discredited. How do you believe the next message if you know damn well that particular message is a deceptive one? So that's how I feel about it. I think that to your point, let's remember that I think we did the right things. First of all, in our COVID emergency assistance, I think we would have been in terrible shape had we not come out with him. We can debate over whether the emergency assistance was too large or too small, or went to the right places. We can have that debate, but the fact that we had the emergency assistance was critical to this country making it through COVID, knock on wood, thus far. But it was all borrowed. So let's put this in context. We borrowed in the last couple of years somewhere in the range of $6 trillion. Borrowed it to get ourselves through COVID. Now, the annual appropriations that I'm working on right now for the entirety of one fiscal year, one normal fiscal year, is at 1.6 trillion. So we borrowed the equivalent of 3, maybe even 4 full fiscal years to get ourselves through COVID. Now, take that in a family budget context. Let's say you have a family emergency, you borrow some money to pay yourself your income because it had a health catastrophe in the family, and so you missed out on 1 year of income, and you borrowed that 1 year of income. And you spend the next couple of years, and then all of a sudden you have another family emergency, but you can't borrow anymore, or at least you pay far more interest to borrow that money. So what are you better off doing during the interim? Getting yourself back to a situation where you were before the first emergency, or just kind of, chalking it up and carrying that debt and not basically retiring the debt for that? This is basic stuff for a family or a business. I mean, in good times, you get yourself in good situations so that in bad times, you can make it through. And so we're exposed right now if all we do is just go back to the well and continue a path that to contemplate sustaining another $6 trillion of borrowing, the functional equivalent of a couple of fiscal years, again, within a next couple of years, or even within a decade, without actually getting back to a fiscally sustainable path, is to contemplate a very, very scary scenario.